Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Some. This is going to be my second video for Food Fantasy. If you haven't checked out my first one, the first one is just a summoning video for caviar. And if you're too lazy for that, as you can see here, I have caviar. Alright, so this is going to be a video guide, more or less, for the new disaster boss here, Durga. It's been about 3 days since its release, so there's a little bit of information out there, not a ton. And if you haven't been really researching out there, this is basically going to condense all the information, and I'm just going to throw it at you and make it, quick and easy to understand, right? So boss details, let's look at the skills really quick. Flame Seal, immune to normal attacks. Self-explanatory. Immune to normal attacks. Kelp Fire, damages the closest target. The exact damage depends on the disaster's attack. At man boundary, gains invincibility. This effect can be dispelled. Next skill is Infinite Spirit Realm, deals instant damage for a set amount to all enemies and inflicts a negative effect that does continuous damage, also a set amount. The continuous effect can't be dispelled. As the battle progresses, the skill's damage increases. Supernatural Flames, Durga's attack increases as the battle drags on. So let's quickly go through each one and kind of what they mean, I guess. I mean, the first one's pretty self-explanatory, as I already said. This one, Kelp Fire, damage is closest target. So this boss doesn't necessarily require a tank. So for example, if a DPS walks up and the tank is behind the DPS, this skill will hit the DPS. So that's kind of a good thing to keep in mind as you're building your team. Position does matter, okay? And unlike the other boss, Aluna, this boss does damage based on its attack stats, so it's not going to be doing damage based on its on your team's HP. So you can afford to actually make your team a little tankier. As a matter of fact, I actually recommend it. At man boundary, gains invincibility. You want to dispel this invincibility. The Infinite Spirit Realm is not dispellable. The longer you fight, the more damage it does. So you can disregard bringing someone like Lava Kanji to the battle. So let's take a look at my team. So as you can see here, I have Sanma, I have Toso, Caviar, Milt, and Bibimbap. And then as you can also see, I only hit 1.3 today. Compared to yesterday, I hit 1.6. I wanted to test something with Bibimbap. Regrettable. I don't recommend bringing Bibimbap at all. Unless you're using her for a secondary heal. She's not that great. My team did last longer in terms of, survivability for healing. So that helped, but I did less damage. So there's no reason for me to actually bring her if I do less damage. So let's go over the reason why. So Sanma, the reason why I brought him is because his first skill does a continuous damage effect. It has this, his first skill does continuous damage. Let's go take a look here. Give you guys a visual of what I mean. Where is it? Where are you? Okay, here's my Sanma skill. So as you see, the first skill here, the very important piece is the last bit here. Also dealing an extra 95 damage per second to that unit for 3 seconds. So this is the continuous effect that I'm talking about. It does damage over time. A dot, D-O-T. That's pretty nice. So that's why I use them. The third skill, energy skill here, it does a ton of damage. So, and the boss is immune to normal attacks, so this third skill does a ton of damage for, in place of that. Alright, and the unit that helped me get to that 1.6 million damage yesterday was actually Miso Soup. And the reason for that is because he links with Sanma, right? So you get to control his skill. So that means you can basically never use his skill, and if he never uses the skill, he'll be basic attacking or using this first skill. And this first skill is super important because it does continuous damage as well. So for me, mine did about 2.4k a second for 4 seconds. So that's about what, 9,000, a little over 9,000 over 4 seconds. I highly recommend Miso Soup. If you haven't built him, you are missing out. He does marvelous. He's just fantastic for the team. I used to think he was pretty garbage too until I used him. And he's super useful for this because he can double as a DPS and a healer. So that's one of my recommendations. Let's go here. So I use Toso also, and the reason for Toso is actually for the first skill. Some of you guys might think I'm using her for her energy skill to regen some energy. It's pretty nice to have that, but it's not the reason why I'm using her. The reason is because she can dispel enemy buffs. And if you don't have that dispel effect, you're not going to be doing any damage. So I highly recommend bringing Toso to the team. If you don't have Toso, there is an alternative. That is Mooncake. Mooncake is a farmable SR unit. I recommend that you go to the hard stages, find her shards, and just farm her every day until you can get her 5-star. That's basically what I did in this case here. So instead of Mooncake, or not instead of Mooncake, instead of Toso, you can run Mooncake. Yeah, and also Mooncake does have the first skill that does continuous damage, so that's really nice too. If you don't have Toso, she's a very good alternative because she does continuous damage and she buff cleanses. For some of you who are thinking maybe you should run double buff cleanse, you don't necessarily have to. If you are losing out on damage because of double buff cleanse, I don't recommend using double buff cleanse, okay? So use a single buff cleanse if your damage is getting, if your damage is up there high enough. Because for me, it doesn't really work because my Mooncake actually makes me lose damage. So let's go here. Assuming I'm running double buff cleanse, but I prefer to use Toso because of the energy regen also. So you kind of, lose some, win some there. Caviar, I use Caviar because of Milt actually. Where is she? Milt. And the reason for that is for her second skill, not second, linked skill. And if you read the last part here, it restores 840 per second to them for 10 seconds, them being your allies. And this 10 seconds is actually just about the amount of time. It's like more like 12 seconds, but that's the interval for when the continuous damage actually stops and continues hitting you, right? So you heal for 10 seconds and then the continuous damage gets applied back onto you and then you need to heal that. And then Milt actually has like a little long animation and that's kind of annoying, but that's the reason why I use Milt. Alternatively, you could use units like Tangyuan who grant invincibility for 4 seconds, but there might be a handicap. Well, not might be, there is a handicap to that because she also sleep for 8 seconds. Might not be that great. You can also use Sweet Tofu if you have him. I highly recommend you sweet Tofu if you do not have Milk. And if you don't have Sweet Tofu and you're just beginning, you're gonna have to use Milk. As I said before, I don't recommend Bibimbap. I was just running a couple tests and you saw it was a fail because I didn't do more damage. That's pretty much it for the teams. Build wise, I recommend you building your team with about 5,000 plus HP. 5,000 or more, okay? And the reason for that is because my Sanma has 3,000 HP and he died around the 4-minute mark. You don't want your DPS dying, right? So for me, I'm gonna be working on an FA that will actually increase my Sanma's HP to at least 5,000 or 6,000, and then hoping that it's enough to compensate for the damage output versus survivability. So that's it. Good luck to you guys out there.